So I finally managed to get my hands on the PS5, only like 2 weeks after the initial estimated delivery date from Walmart. But hey, I got it, and I'm definitely grateful considering how hard it is to find any stock still. And that likely will continue to be the case, at least for a while, heading into the new year. Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and I am absolutely loving this console. It has blown me away and more than met my expectations, at least so far, and Xbox has some seriously stiff competition this generation. But even if the PS5 is awesome, $400 or $500, depending on whether or not you get the disc version, is still very darn expensive. So let's ask the question, is it really worth it? Yeah, it's worth it. I mean, I don't think anyone expected a different answer than that. That would sure be going against the grain, but I might as well get it out of the way. The PS5 is absolutely worth the money, especially right now. This video is mainly going to be talking about why the PS5 is worth the money, and also a couple of the flaws, because there are a few. But right now, considering this console is brand new and that it probably won't be easy to find for a while, and also won't be getting discounts for like another couple of years, it is absolutely worth the retail value. If you want one, just get one, if you can find it, because again, they are really hard to find right now. Unless you turn to eBay, where you won't be paying retail price. Prices on eBay are absurd, and don't even consider getting one from there. If you bought a PS5 with the sole intention of scalping it, shame on you. Free market and all that, sure, but it still doesn't make the practice any less scummy, and I wish retailers had done a better job of making sure bots and scalpers hadn't got so much of the little stock there was in the first place. People are selling the PS5 for like around $1,000, if not more, and that's just terrible. Don't even briefly consider it. A little bit of patience will save you hundreds of dollars, and avoid lining the pockets of those who bought the console with the sole goal of taking advantage of desperate people wanting it by Christmas. So that obvious part is out of the way. Avoid eBay at all costs. But as the PS5 does start to hit store shelves more and more over the next year, it is definitely going to be worth picking up. The game lineup is already actually very impressive, with Spider-Man Miles Morales being the perfect launch title for the system. Demon's Souls is also a fantastic game, so I hear it's not really my type of thing, but the reviews of that have been really, really good. But going back to Miles Morales, because that's the one I've been playing, the footage here you can see was captured by me on my own PS5, not only with Spider-Man, but any game I show. But this especially is a fantastically fun game, very similar to the first Spider-Man, but what really impresses me about it is the visuals. It takes advantage of ray tracing and shows off the power of the console so well. There are many areas you'd be in where there's a lot of red, dark lighting, so the light reflecting off Spider-Man's suit and the faces is just amazing. And there's an early part where you're walking through the streets and there are reflections off the ground, and that's everywhere, not even just at night, but even during the daytime you can see the reflections of the billboards and whatnot. It's fantastic. We definitely haven't hit the peak of graphical prowess yet, not by a long shot, but the lighting makes such a huge difference when it comes to improving the experience. It's mind-boggling, especially on a big 4K TV. I really recommend trying it if you do get a PS5, just for the graphics alone. And also, it's just a super fun, action-packed game. And it's games like Spider-Man that are a good example of the PS5's potential, not only because of the graphical power, but because it also gives you a few options. You don't have to have the best graphics if you'd rather have a higher frame rate. What I've shown here is called Fidelity Mode, which is the game in 4K at 30 frames per second with ray tracing on. But if I go ahead and switch it here to Performance Mode, we bump things up to 60 frames per second while retaining 4K, but we turn off ray tracing. You can see it here. In person, it looks much smoother. This whole video is at 30 frames per second, so it probably doesn't look much different. And I tried this in-game to see how I liked it, and yeah, it feels much more buttery, but the world felt so much lesser without the enhanced lighting mechanics, and so I almost immediately switched back. It doesn't look bad, but going back to that fidelity mode, it's so gorgeous, and it really helps that the fidelity mode is locked at a steady 30 frames per second, and I haven't experienced even one frame drop that I can think of. It's so consistent, and if the games can already look this good, I can't wait to see what the future holds. Another nice thing about the PS5 is that it can also enhance older titles that were on the PS4. There are some recent games like The Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima that did come out for the PS4 but will or already have received updates for the PS5, which means not only better performance but perhaps even better graphics. But then you also have even older PS4 games like Infamous Second Son. This game is a great example because it has an uncapped frame rate and in 4K is really nice looking. It's hard to believe this game is like 6 years old at this point somehow, but not every game is going to get an update to improve things on PS5. PS5, and that's okay. But they should still perform better, load faster if they're on the SSD, and be fully playable. There are very few games from the PS4 that can't be played here, and those ones are very obscure, so any title you can think of should be good to go. So not only can you bring your entire library over, but you can also enjoy the new games releasing like Miles Morales, Cyberpunk, Call of Duty Cold War, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and of course, Demon's Souls is the big one as well and looks great on the PS5. You can still play Miles Morales on PS4, and if you have a PS4, go for it, but on PS5 it's going to be the best experience. And not only does Spider-Man look great on PS5, but also takes a little bit of advantage of the new controllers. And that DualSense controller, oh my gosh, it's in a league of its own. It might look a little goofy, but don't be fooled. It is by and far the best controller that exists right now, and it's not even close. Why? The haptics, or vibrations in other words. Astro's Playground, a pre-installed game with the PS5, is a really basic platformer that shows off the potential here. Not only are the vibrations great, but the triggers have been given some added tension to them. So depending on the scenario, it can be harder to push down. Imagine this in a sports game where your stamina is low, so it's harder to pull the trigger, or maybe in a shooter where the gun suddenly jams and you're unable to pull it at all. It's so satisfying to feel the difference. Mix that with the haptics and you have a whole new level of immersion in your gaming life. Some people might kind of scoff at this, like, hey, it's just a controller, but it's just yet another thing that adds to the experience. When you're running in Astro's Playground, you can feel yourself running, and it changes depending on the surface. Running on metal, it feels like you're running on metal. Running on sand, it feels like you're running on sand. Swimming, it feels like you're swimming. Skating on ice, you can feel it, and I think that one actually might have impressed me the most because somehow it really feels like I was skating. It's hard to describe. It's one of those things that you need to try for yourself. My brother tried it and he was blown away as well, but let me warn you, you may not be able to go back to a regular controller afterwards, at least for a little while. It's next level, and I think we're gonna see Xbox scramble to try to match this generation, as it really does completely change things up. One thing both the PS5 and Xbox Series X have is an SSD over a regular hard drive, and this makes all the difference for load times. It felt crazy to me when I went to turn on Spider-Man, and within like 30 seconds it was up and ready to go. It's so much faster than past consoles. And yes, if you're a PC user, you'll know this tech has been around for a while, but to be fair, on my PC I put most of my games on regular hard drives anyway, so I am feeling the difference here. It means low loading times and the ability to just rush you scene to scene without even a loading screen in sight. I've been playing Spider-Man a lot lately, and it's just non-stop action. Do a mission, get a cutscene, back in the open world, there are no interruptions, and that's exactly what I want from a game. Going to the PS5 UI, it's pretty basic, and I think it's a big improvement over the PS4. It feels more streamlined to just get you to your game, and I appreciate that a lot. The PS4 could be a bit of a pain to navigate, especially because of how laggy it could be, but the PS5, no lag, no slowdown, no frustrations, just find your game and play. I also did get this media remote for PS5. It was fairly inexpensive at like $30 US, and it works really well with both my TV and the console. So this can be your media hub, no problem, and I'd say it's gotta be one of the best possible media hubs out there, as with the SSD, load times are barely existent. On PS4, I could definitely feel the lag sometimes, even just loading up Netflix. Here, you press the button on the remote and you're in. Performance-wise, this is a huge upgrade over the PS4, and it definitely looks like an upgrade too. This PS5 is massive and has one of the most unique console designs of all time. It looks like a Wi-Fi router, if you know, the Wi-Fi router was giant. I don't know how to show just how big this thing is. Here it is compared to the original PS3, formerly the biggest PlayStation, and compared to the original Xbox, which is one of the biggest consoles ever. Yeah, this thing is huge. I do have the disc drive on mine, so I did pay extra for that, and that's really just because I like owning physical copies of games. It also means down the line you can save some money buying used from GameStop or wherever, as opposed to being limited to what the PlayStation Store offers and, you know, being at the whim of whatever sales and discounts they decide to give you. But that design, it's two-tone with matte white plastic sides and then a glossy black plastic middle. I'm not a fan of glossy plastic on pretty much any console. I didn't mind it on the PS3 too much, but this really isn't too much of an exception for me, as it collects dust and fingerprints way too easily. I don't think it looks bad, but I do think a matte finish would have been nicer, but that's what they went with, and it certainly is a unique look. The PS5 can be positioned both vertically and horizontally, and there's an included stand to set it up either way. I didn't use the stand initially, mostly just for filming reasons, as I think it does look better without it, but practically speaking, even if you're using it vertically, you should use the stand just for better airflow, and so I did end up setting it up, and you can see it here. It's not ugly, and I'm glad they have an included way to position the console correctly. The fans on this thing are pretty darn quiet though. Gone are the days of hearing the equivalent of a jet engine firing up whenever you booted your PS4 or got into an intensive area in a game. Heck, some later games had my PS4 firing up at basically nothing. It was quite annoying, and I'm glad to be rid of it here. Some people have complained about some noises like the disk drive being loud and some coil whine or whatever. For me, my PS5's been fine so far, so hopefully those are just outlier cases. Really, in my opinion, the biggest flaw with the PS5 is the only 825 gigabytes of storage. The SSD is a blessing and a half, but it means you can only have so many games downloaded at once, and games aren't exactly getting smaller in size. You also, even though it says 825 gigs, actually only have about 660. This is mostly due to probably software stuff taking up quite a bit, but it really does make it not much better than the original 500 gigabyte PS4, which would give you, what, 400 usable gigs-ish? So prepare to have to delete games you aren't playing anymore regularly, at least until Sony offers a proper external storage option. There actually is an easily accessible M.2 slot on the console, so it should be an easy upgrade, but Sony isn't supporting it quite yet, so you'll need to wait out until they come out with an option for that. Hopefully it'll remedy the storage issue, although this does mean paying for another SSD, which likely won't be cheap. To clarify, you can, however, right now use any typical external drive for PS4 games, one that would hook up with USB, but even if you get an external SSD, PS5 games won't work on it, as it needs its own special, very, very fast SSD. So right now the storage thing isn't really an issue. There's not a ton of PS5 games available anyways, so if you kept your PS4 games on an external drive, you should be okay for now. In fact, because there's not a ton of PS5 games, you actually might find yourself running out of games to play, but luckily there's an easy way to remedy this, and I'll get to it in a moment here. Almost as soon as I got my PS5, I did buy the PlayStation Plus subscription for the first time in a very long time, just because I wanted to access the online scene as well as the free games you get monthly. PS Plus is necessary if you want a game online, and it'll cost you about $60 for a year membership, so make sure you add that to your list of costs. If you're getting a PS5, odds are you'll want it, if not need it. We don't have Xbox Game Pass. We do have PlayStation Now, which is you can stream like old PS3, PS2, PS4 games, but it kind of sucks and the selection isn't very good, so I don't recommend that. But what we do have is some actually free games on PS5 that comes with PlayStation Plus. I was surprised to see I have free access to a number of big titles like Ratchet & Clank, Crash Bandicoot, Last of Us Remastered, Uncharted 4, God of War, and so on and so forth. I'm not sure if these games are going to be around forever, but I'd imagine more could even be added, and this is a pretty great way for people to catch up on the best of the PS4 library without having to buy the games separately. Once you get the PS5 as well as PlayStation Plus, you'll have tons and tons of games to keep you entertained, which really reinforces the initial statement of this video. The PS5 is absolutely worth buying. It's going to be worth it for a really long time because there aren't going to be discounts for a really long time. There also probably will be inevitably some kind of slim model, but that probably won't be for a few years. Right now is the time to buy the PS5 if you can afford it and if you can find one. Again, don't go for eBay. Pay attention to retailers, especially big ones like Best Buy and Walmart, and as they come out with new waves of consoles, try your luck to get one as soon as they come out. I got lucky on launch day getting mine from Walmart. Again, they delivered it like 2 weeks late, but hey, at least I got one. From the power of the PS5 to the games to even the controller, an aspect I had never really before seen is that important for consoles. This system has blown me away, and I feel so lucky to get to experience it already. I love it, I'm glad I bought it, and if you're interested and have the money, I wish you luck in trying to pick one up. But with that, I think I'm about done here. Any of you have the PS5 already somehow? Any looking to get one? Let me know in the comments down below. If you found this video interesting or helpful, maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. You can follow me over on Twitter and Instagram at 91_tech if you'd like to for some reason. With that all being said, thank you so much for watching. I'm Josh from 91tech. I'm gonna go play Spider-Man now, and I will see you all next time.